So it's easy to criticize, but they're really criticizing science because I represent science.
At Pfizer, our goal is to create a healthier tomorrow. That's why our dedicated team is working around the clock to ensure everyone has access to the COVID-19 vaccine as soon as possible, so you can get back to doing things like this.
Stop, hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Until you accept it, until you accept responsibility, we're not going to get anywhere close to trying to prevent another lab leak of this dangerous sort of experiment. You won't admit that it's dangerous, and for that lack of judgment, I think it's time that you resign.
Thank you, Senator Paul, and I would like to give the time to Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, well, there were so many things that are egregious misrepresentation here, Madam Chair, that I don't think I'd be able to refute all of them, but just a couple of them.
Ready, set, go.
Well, first let's start off with Pfizer, because that is just a very interesting story. Down on revenue, but beating estimates, and definitely a little bit of attention still on their COVID products, really updating the guidance through the end of the year based on the vaccine as well as the treatment Paxlovid. Paxlovid is flat.
Their initial review of the data that was coming out of their real-time surveillance system, it found that it might be the case that those who receive the updated formulation of the Pfizer vaccine might have an elevated risk of stroke shortly after the injection date. Here is how the statement then continued.
I have no responsibility for the current pandemic.
According to their statement, which you can see up on screen for yourself, the CDC cited the data that was coming from their real-time vaccine surveillance system, and citing that data, here's what they wrote, quote, following the availability and use of the updated, the bivalent COVID-19 vaccines, the CDC's Vaccine Safety Data Link, or VSD, a near real-time surveillance system, met the statistical criteria to prompt additional investigation into whether there was a safety concern for ischemic stroke in people ages 65 and older who received the bivalent Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine.
Most card-carrying viral phylogenists and molecular virologists would disagree with you.
The CDC says there could be a safety issue with Pfizer's updated COVID-19 vaccine. New numbers reveal a possible increase in a certain type of stroke in people 65 and older who recently received one of the updated boosters.
That is much more likely, even though we leave open all possibilities, it's much more likely that this was a natural occurrence.
This year, for the first time ever, the number of overdose deaths in the United States passed 100,000. That's up 30% from just last year. It's up more than 100% since 2015. At this point, more Americans are dying from drug ODs than are dying from car crashes and gun deaths combined. An overdose is the final chapter in the world's saddest story, many years of suffering and torment. And our lunatic COVID policies have caused so much more of this. What people like Tony Fauci will never acknowledge is that addiction is far worse than the coronavirus. Addiction doesn't just kill you, although of course it does. Addiction degrades you and destroys the people around you, the very people you love the most.
Tested 80,000 animals and no animals have been found with COVID.
Senator Paul, the time is first.
And third, you made a statement just a moment ago that's completely incorrect.
3 short days ago, the CDC officially came out and they stated that according to the data that they were able to collect, an investigation must be opened up regarding the possible link, regarding the possible connection between the new formulation of the Pfizer vaccine and a potentially elevated risk of stroke in those above the age of 65.
You continue to support research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
You were in committee a month ago and
Which
said
is
you still trust the
completely-
Chinese scientists and you still support the research over there. You said it a month ago
Senator
in committee.
Paul, I have allowed Dr. Fauci to respond. You've had your time. I'm going to give him.
He's going to be dishonest. He ought to be challenged.
Senator Paul, we will allow Dr. Fauci to respond after you've given accusations like that. Dr. Fauci.
Well, I don't have any more to say except to say that, as usual, and I have a great deal of respect for this body of the Senate, and it makes me very uncomfortable to have to say something, but he is egregiously incorrect in what he says.
Thank you.
History will figure that out on its own.
I think it's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Just bust a move.
And the earth is round, not flat.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
There's always someone walking among us who has nefarious objectives and will use some of our greatest technology for the unraveling of civilization. That's always been the case.
We know now that the next crisis is already waiting for us around the corner.